I was lucky enough to be one of the original 6 spoken word educators, and ever since then I've been working with young people around creativity, writing poetry, and it's just given me an invaluable joy actually, but an access to a whole range of emotions that young people have to deal with. And the poem that I'm going to read from Peter Kahn's collection, which I'm really excited about, we've been waiting ages for this, is How Do We Make It a Building? It really reflects the lives beyond the school buildings actually that young people have to deal with. How do we make it a building? Too many students are half whole, or a quarter whole, or a dug hole. And who holds the shovel? And how do we make it a building tool? And how can it fill the very hole it dug without burying anyone? Too many students are shovels in the slipped grip of calloused hands.
Time machine. I was so rich, I shredded $1,000 bills over my caviar and gold flake salad, sprinkled diamond dots on top for extra texture, brought the redwood forest from California to my backyard for extra privacy. The sun has to knock for permission to enter, the moon ditties. So rich, I bought a limo for my limo, a house for my house. So rich, Beyonce left Jay-Z for me. I paid him to write a love song for her to croon to me. It was lovely. So rich, I had Steve Jobs' ghost apple me a time machine. I went back to White Plains Hospital, where Grandma Liz lay alone, 1984, whispered goodbye for her final 20 days, grasping her branch of a hand, until her last sigh crawled into the stars' blinking eyes. I chose to read that poem from Little Kings because it's just so beautiful, and I love the way it starts. I love how hyperbolic it is, how fun it is, and the imagery is really relatable and playful. And then it gets to something so personal, yet still so relatable for anyone who's lost someone that they love or not get to say, the goodbye. It's just a really beautiful poem, and it shows you, Peter, doing something that is really difficult, being fun in a poem and also really poignant and powerful at the same time. And yeah, you're a great poet and a brilliant teacher, and this poem reminds me of one that you introduced me to that I've used in the classroom, Ego Tripping by Nikki Giovanni, which has a lot of the hyperbolic language and is really playful but has some kind of serious undertones as well. And I love using that in the classroom because it gets young people thinking outside of reality and what's possible, and thinking about what they'd love to have, what they'd love to be, or be able to do. So I think a poem like that captures so much playfulness, but also real tenderness, and I congratulate you for it, and I congratulate you for this collection, Peter. It's really beautiful, and I can't wait for everyone to read it. So thanks for asking me to make this video, and congratulations on the launch of Little Kings.
Hi, my name is Kat Brogan. I'm a poet and a spoken word educator. I was one of the first to be on the spoken word educator program set up by Peter Kahn in conjunction with Goldsmiths University. I'm absolutely delighted to read to you one of his poems from his debut collection, Little Kings, and the one that I have chosen is On First Knowing You're a Teacher. Robert's not coming in, my boss tells me. I'm sitting sweating in a windowless office, a stack of resumes eyeballing me, stinking up the desk. I'm first screener and sleepy in this stuffy box. Would you be able to lead a workshop on resume writing? I'm 22 And my own resume got me the most boring gig at Jobs for Youth Chicago. Some of the youth I'll be teaching are nearly my age, but there are windows and people in that classroom, so I nearly yell yes. 30 students look at me, and 45 minutes later look to me, and I'm hooked and I'm floating and anchored at the same time. For the first time, I'm whole and broken, open. I'm spinning and stunned still. So I chose this poem because I think it really captures that juxtaposition of teaching, that contrast of the constant moving and the feeling that your heart is wide open, but also feeling so grounded and feeling so connected with your students. And I think that that is the real power of poetry and of teaching poetry, is it allows us to connect with ourselves, to connect with our community, and to connect with art in a way that helps us transcend our everyday experience and co-create the world that we want to see.
Hi, my name's Pete Bearder. I'm a poet and an educator. I have a question. What value is there in poetry in schools? If you care about that question, then you may be interested to hear this poem that I'm going to share with you from Peter Kahn. Peter is somebody who I had the great privilege of having as a mentor when he came over from Chicago to London to establish the spoken word education program. And his new book, Little Kings, is about being a teacher of poetry in schools. This poem is called What a Teacher's Dream Looks Like. Here we go. Students won't stop talking, and I know what I'm saying is important, but they now have their headphones in and are talking even louder. And there's a defiance in the not listening that's an open-handed slap. I don't recognise any of them, but they're mine. I know they're mine. And if they're mine and they won't listen, what am I but a handprint fading from red to nothing? This deceptively complex poem, I think, really illustrates why Peter Kahn is a master at what he does. Because he understands that teaching poetry, and indeed poetry more generally, is about relationships. And what we're seeing with this poem and other poems in this collection is the same diligence that Peter Kahn puts towards the relationships in schools. He puts towards the relationship between the words in his poems. I encourage you guys to get a copy of this book. It's called Little Kings and it's out now with Nine Arches Press.
I'm going to read a poem in Little Kings by Peter Kahn called Till It's Gone, which is a golden shovel after Joni Mitchell. When I tell you about Steve, don't think just because he killed someone, it means he's a dog to put down. There's always two sides, and while it may seem that his story reeks of bug-eyed maggots, to judge him without the bullet story is to go down a lightless, dead-end street that isn't a street after all. When I ask you to listen for the clink of ricochet, don't forget to hear the surprise in his voice. Know he aimed high at stars, not people, to escape what would be an L platform or snarling fists. You've no idea what blood and teeth taste like. Got no idea what it's like when your mom shoots up till you're sleeping in shit, ripped away by DCFS. It's like you're riding down a razor. All sense of art gone. And one of the reasons I'm reading this poem is because without I could not be the kind of teacher or poet I am without the mentoring and guidance of Peter Kahn. Peter truly showed me that you can be yourself in the classroom. You can show up to the page in your poems in the same way you can show up for your students in the classroom as yourself, as your authentic self. You can be vulnerable, you can be a clown, you know, but you can also be compassionate, even you know, to the students who are living lives that are we can only imagine, which is like what this poem tries to do. And at the same time, the empathy within the poem, which is something very, very true, and something I admire about Peter, is that even when he doesn't, you know, doesn't kind of understand or come from that background or those experiences, he listens. He's an incredible listener, and that is something that I try to take and give as a teacher, as a poet. So thank you, Peter, and congratulations on Little Kings.